this rainy day, I wanna finish up my roll of Kodak 200. And because I have a really fast lens, I can use this film with these conditions of light, basically shooting on almost wide open on 1/45th of a second. Kodak 200 actually works much better if you just shoot it a little bit overexposed, because it handles lights really well. And as always with the film, you have really good glow effect in the lights. And at the same time, when you're using 1.2 lens, which is actually a copy of the old Leica lens, it gives you this volume because it's not really crazy corrected lens, but in the same time it's completely modern optics, and probably it's too much quality for the film. For film photos, it's much better to select the optics with completely different qualities. For example, for black and white, it's much more important to transition to blacks to shadows. And for color photos, for sure, it's optimization of color and the rendering of color, especially on the film. And because today I want to try my new setup for film development, we will start with the preparing and loading of the films inside the Yobo drum. I will use the drum with the 2 reels inside and 1 core. Unfortunately, I don't have a spare ruined film, but I more or less understand how the reels works and how to load everything on top of the reel. On a quick glance, if you compare the Yobo system with the Patterson, the quality of the Yobo system is much better, especially in plastics and thinking all around it. For development, I need 2 reels, 1 can opener, 1 lid, 2 canisters with the film, base for the drum, core, and the scissors. So these reels works a little bit different, so they don't have any metallic balls, so you need to advance it by finger like this. But what I really like about these reels, you can actually feel all the movements what you make, and you can feel them on the whole distance of the film. On this reel you actually have separator for 120 film to load 2 different films in one spool. As you can understand, 60mm film have exactly the same area, so in principle you can stack around 2 rolls of 120 in a one extended reel. And this is exactly what is actually mentioned on the drum itself. So this drum is more or less universal. You can develop 2 35mm films or 2 120 films. So let's put it in the back, and I will slowly load the film on top of the reels. One small trick what I actually implemented in my workflow, I usually unwind the film. So basically rewind it on the finger from the core to my finger and load it from the back. In this case, film doesn't really have a tension and the radius is much bigger, so it's close to the radius of the spool itself. So it's just much nicer and faster process. I've noticed I have a lot of chemistry and not a lot of structure. And because I bought the Yobo CPP processor, I will transfer all my liquids inside this bucket. Because most of the time, these one-time use plastic containers for liquids, they not really seal the lid. And if you store them on the side, it's usually leaking and it's not really good seal for air and actually for liquid itself. To summarize, I actually have a kit for C41 and I have a kit for RA4, an additional kit for RA4, black and white development chemistry, black and white paper chemistry. So it sounds not like a lot, but as you can see, it's a lot of small bottles, and additionally I need to store the prepared solutions because I develop everything in the same time. Because Yobo system actually requires not a lot of solution for rotation, I think with the 2 high-speed films you can use one-shot solution to develop 2 rolls. I will prepare 4 bottles, and I have 4 bottles for RA4, and I will have 4 bottles from my new kit for C41 chemistry. Previously I bought the bottles from the Adox chemistry, so they're really cheap, but they don't have a half-liter solution bottles. So in this time I invest a little bit of money in the bottles, and actually they quite nice, so at least they close up really well. This bottle's not leaking, and actually I really like the design and they stack really well inside the Yoba developer. Because I'm preparing half of the kit, I actually need to prepare half of each bottle and make a final solutions. Tetanal kit contains from 3 different solutions for color developer, 2 solutions for Blix Fix, and 1 solution for stabilizer. I'm actually quite curious why nobody released the proper solutions for development inside the drum, but I think it's just not really popular, and most of the people who actually develop a lot using Kodak solutions. So at the moment I'm actually in the beta testing of scaling up my film development. So if someone wanna develop film in Munich or ship it to Munich to be developed in my film lab, please contact me. I will be quite curious to experiment with not only my own films. My idea, I actually don't really want to scale up to crazy numbers of film development and make it mass production. I'm more curious about the conversation between the front end and the back end, so the film photographer itself and the artist and the darkroom developer and the printer. And probably you don't know, but most of the famous artists never develop film themselves, so they just ship it to the proper guy who actually make all the chemical works and all the magic behind the doors. In this particular process I'm actually quite curious because my measuring cylinders is not crazy precise, they plastic and have a precision of ±2 milliliters. So it means my final solutions can be a little bit off, and I just want to take a look if my whole process will work in the same fashion as it worked before. But I definitely like smaller bottles and the smaller volumes for film development. And because now I have a scalability of the process, for me it's much better to develop 5 films in the same time than develop 3 films in the same time. Because I can use one-shot solution for half a liter, develop 5 films, and just discard the solution. And don't worry about the purest of the solution and the time corrections. And if you work with the fresh solutions each time, prepared from the concentrate, it's just much better to control the process itself, and you don't have additional parameter of negative storage and the storage of the solutions itself. Quite frankly, they're really stable and probably nobody will see any type of difference between the solutions in terms of time. But for sure, fresh and one-shot solutions render color better, and you have a much more conversion from the couplers of color to the final result. In the past, stabilizer solution for color was quite cancerogenic and it's not really safe to use it, but at the moment I think it's just a surface active agent to dry the film better and just preserve it from fungus and things like this in future. And you also can use this solution for rewash your film if you have any spots on the film or a lot of dust from past. Just rewash it in a step and let it dry. In the comments it was actually debate about the stop solution. But as you can see here in the manual, it's written that you can use the Eco stop from Tetanal, and this is exactly the same as citric acid stop, what I use from Adox chemistry. So I will prepare the solution and just try how it works and if it gives any noticeable difference. And let's start preparation of the Yoba CPU system.
Get through and we'll sing hallelujah.
I updated my timer because last time I make a corrections for the time, so my preheating is actually 5 minutes, so I will install the drum and heat it for 5 minutes. I actually bought this precision thermometer, which is actually have a half degree increment and half degree precision from range from 30 to 40 degrees. And I just want to test if the bottle's temperature, the drum temperature and the measuring cylinder temperature is exactly the same. And unfortunately for the Yobo system it's not the case, and as you can understand, the difference between the temperature in the drum and the temperature in the cylinders just from temperature loss can be more than 1 degree. I still not find any solutions to this particular problem, and I think only one solution what you can make, it's just to make a test with the test development strips and find out what is the final density of your development. Because if I pour solution inside this measuring cylinder, it's actually 0.7 degrees lower than the solution inside the bottles. And additionally, I have no idea what is the temperature of the solution inside the drum. But from my understanding, the temperature in the drum should just fall slow enough, but the solution itself, what you pour inside the drum, should be close enough to 38 degrees. And probably in future I'm thinking about the digital PED regulator for this particular system, because it's not really convenient to measure the temperature and adjust the temperature with the thermometer and go back and forward with this death loop. Yes, you can use a circulator and put it on the side and use the circulator with exactly the same principle. But additionally, what I don't like about the circulators, it's exactly the same thing and it doesn't really solve the problems what I just described. You need to measure temperature inside the bottle by hand and make decisions and adjustments from there. I think this is really not smart approach, and it's much better to have a PED regulator with the external thermocouple, which you can put inside the bottle and control from there precise temperature of each solution what you will pour inside the drum. And at the same time, you just hope it will be the same temperature and temperature loss on the drum when you pour it down and wait for a long period of time. For comparison, I load two different rolls with a different manner. One is actually emulsion outside and second one with the emulsion inside. I don't see any difference from the development point of view, so it means the whole development procedure works more or less fine. And the new Kodak film for me looks a little bit flimsy, so the base material I think gets thinner and thinner with the years. And the second thing, I don't really like the new anti-scratch emulsion on top. It creates this strange greenish tint, and if you not wash it out, it's not really easy to see. And sometimes it actually can survive the whole 3 solutions, even developer and bleach fix, and you just wash it up in the last step. And after film is dry and I clean up, I will just proceed with the film scanning. As you probably remember, I'm still using my Plastek 135 scanner for 35mm film with the combination of the Negative Lab Pro plugin for the Lightroom. I cannot say it's extremely fast, but I really like the reproducive results and how the overall look I get from this scanner. And the sharpness is actually quite nice and the package of the scanner is quite small. If you don't have a digital camera, and especially if you just shoot the black and white, this scanner doesn't have a dust correction, so it's just cheap and really perfect for black and white 35mm film. For color, as you can understand, you have much higher requirements, especially from dust point of view. But for now, I don't find anything better, so maybe in future I will invest my time in finding the scanning solutions which works for all types of film formats. But for now, let's enjoy the gallery of my scans from these 2 particular rolls.
This world, it's so unkind. One day you're king, the next you're crucified. What good is truth without love? What good are we if just flesh and blood? This world, it's so cruel. You think you've won the game and they've on and change the rules. But maybe I'm just a fool to believe there's something beautiful inside of you and me. But how long must I wait to see this world change? Oh, I long for the day that my tears are gone, and each day that goes by, oh, I watch evil rise, and it's getting harder to find where beauty belongs. This world, it's so dark, it loves to stomp the fire out of every broken heart. But if I refuse
Thank you
to
for
let
watching,
this flame
and see you
me die,
in the next
oh,
videos.
I can light the world up one spark at a time.